Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So, we're got a fun and exciting video for you guys today because we're talking about the PS2 Recomp tool by Ranjay and the fact that it is now showing some games booting and showing some signs of life. And one of the first ones up is going to be Silent Hill Origins. And before you ask in the comments down below of all the Silent Hill games on PlayStation 2, why would somebody pick Origins? It's probably just because it was one game that was able to run. I totally get that Origins is not the best Silent Hill game out there, but this is not so much talking about the best or worst Silent Hill games. It's talking about the PS2 Recomp tool and the fact that it is now showing signs of life, statically recompiling PlayStation 2 games. And if you missed my previous video, I will leave a link in the description below, but we do have a new tool, PS2 Recomp, that is still experimental and not 100% complete, but is basically going to be something like the Xenia Recomp tool for Xbox 360 or the N64 Recomp tooling for N64 static recomps, meaning that can take an entire game and then statically recompile it to a PC executable with improvements, quality of life enhancements, higher resolutions, better textures, and everything else if people actually want to make that. This is going to be something that I feel like is going to explode in the next 6, 12, 18 to 24 months, and you're going to start seeing some select PlayStation 2 games probably get complete recompiles. Just be aware that that's different than a decompilation and a PC port when it comes to PlayStation 2 games we talked about before. But this is definitely exciting stuff, and this is Blacklight Interactive right here, his video, which I will leave a link in the description below. Go over, toss him a sub, and ask any questions you want. And this is getting Silent Hill Origins running via the PS2 Recomp tool. And you will see on the left hand side of the screen as well, a lot of the code for the recompilation is available for you to read. And if you pause, you can see some of the other things actually going on. Active threads for as far as actual CPU usage is concerned, as well as some memory address spacing and other commands to basically get this game to boot. It isn't the quote-unquote most exciting video you're going to see anytime soon, but you will see here that the actual splash screen for Silent Hill Origins shows up on screen, and that means at least at this point in time, the game is actually booting up and code is executing and running. You also have a display output as well, which means that all of those components, at least in this one area, are functioning enough to statically recompile Silent Hill Origins, its game code, as well as the underlying video and audio portions of a PlayStation 2. It might again not be the biggest thing in the world, but as far as the actual progress, it is massive in a lot of ways. Now, I'm not saying that Silent Hill Origins are going to be playable next week, next month, or even next year, and it seems like even just the CPU boot portion has about 5,600 lines of code, but it's definitely a start. And that is exciting, even though we have PCSX2, and I consider it one of the best emulators out there, alongside something like DuckStation for PlayStation 1 and Dolphin for GameCube and Wii. Having another availability is always going to be a fun time. And this is exactly what Silent Hill Origins should look like, because obviously I need a little more backing footage to talk about the concept, since that video is all of a minute long and only shows the overall Konami splash screen at the beginning. And honestly, I don't think Silent Hill Origins is all that bad, to get on a little bit of a tangent. Obviously, it's not Silent Hill 2, 3, or even The Room, but it isn't the worst of that new generation of Silent Hill games. Well, we all know that Silent Hill definitely took a dip as far as quality is concerned, although I will say the most recent Silent Hill F and what else is coming in the future definitely feels like Silent Hill is getting a return to form. But something like Origins here, I'm sure it's one of those targets that might have some debug symbols included in the code, which can make recompilation a little bit easier. But again, I want you to be aware that the PS2 Recomp tool is still in active development, and that is kind of the same across the board with all of the different Recomp tools. It's just stuff that Xbox 360 and N64 is way further along the line in development when it comes to actually being efficient to use and being able to render results, pun very much intended, that would be playable on a PC. PS2 Recomp tool right now is not going to get you into any game that I am aware of. It's not going to let you play or have any fun, and it certainly isn't going to allow you to actually beat any games. It is still in those early days of development, but it definitely is something that I think is going to be very exciting moving forward, because there's absolutely thousands upon thousands of games in the PlayStation 2 library, and probably like 500 plus that would absolutely be considered must-plays. So the fact that this can even work in the first place and show some of that code actually booting up is absolutely an impressive sort of feat, because trust me, to get to this point in time, that's basically like 80% of the work right there. But if we take a look at the console here with all of the different command lines going by, all of the different functions that are happening, you see pool attachment, that's probably just for memory address allocation, that would be my guess at least, and a lot of different active threads as to far as what is actually booting at this point in time. And it's one of those things, I can probably read maybe half of this and actually parse what it is, different arguments and different overrides there for a sleep thread, but this is how much is going on under the hood just to get the game to actually boot up and post. Because it's one of those things, this is highly complicated stuff, but when it's done and everything works perfectly fine, it kind of feels like magic. But it is a good idea to understand at least a little bit of what's going on under the hood, so you can see just how absolutely massive of a lift this is, and just how impressive something like PS2 Recomp is, even if it isn't anywhere near finished. Let's do a soundtrack sample. 1, because the music in Silent Hill Origins is quite good, and 2, it allows me to talk about how the Recomp tool will have to deal with video and audio in the future as well. But go ahead and listen, and I'll be right back with a lot more PS2. Now, I didn't do a soundtrack sample just to give you a break and listen to some audio. I also want to talk about the overall video and audio implementation, because one thing that the actual PS2 Recomp tool doesn't have fully implemented in yet is some of the graphic synthesization and other implementations. So I'm not exactly sure, when you see that Konami splash screen, how that is being handled by the developer using PS2 Recomp. Because again, this code is open source, anyone can add to it, and I am sure these modules will be included in the future, but it isn't really a 100% complete implementation of a PS2 Recomp tool that would get you everything you need. The game recomped and actually running its code natively on a CPU with all of the video, all of the audio, and all of the other I/O and handling. But that will definitely come, because all of these projects basically have to start somewhere, and PS2 Recomp definitely has a really good start going on right now. And again, you'll see here all of the features, including taking that MIP CPU code and moving it over to C++, as well as some of the other items it's going to do. And that in and of itself, doing that in real time, is not a light lift whatsoever. But when this is done, it should require less system overhead for resources compared to running something like PCSX2 and basically upscaling all of the different graphical functions. And all it's really doing is parsing the PS2 file into that C++ code. And if you're wondering what a .elf is, it's basically just a Linux version of an executable. It has a lot of functions, but it's one of those things you see it more on maybe the techno-parrot side of things when you're actually using a translation layer to run some of those Linux games on something like Windows. The difference there is those games also use x86 processors, because it's basically just a PC in a box at this point in time, where the PlayStation 2 is using a MIPS processor, which is a completely different instruction set than something like any modern CPU. I know sometimes instruction sets can get a little bit complicated. Just think of it like this. You can't put a circle in a square hole, and you can't put a square in a circular hole in those little wooden children's toy games. But if you actually take that square and sand it down to a circle, it will work, and that's basically the real-time recompilation of that code. Because even though the PlayStation 2 is old now, it is still a relatively complex system compared to something like PlayStation 1 or N64, where we see a lot of recomp, so it definitely takes a little bit more work. And honestly, it really is exciting that this is a future that we're going to potentially live in. We're actually able to recompile PlayStation 2 games. But like I've said in previous videos, I want you to understand one thing about the tool. Even when it is done, it's not something that you can just drag a PlayStation 2 ISO into, go ahead and hit recompile, and somehow a fully working PC executable is going to spit out the back end. That is not how these things work. It's never going to work like that. It allows developers to have a toolset to work on these recomps, but it does not allow them to basically do it in 1 or even 2 clicks. It's going to require a lot of man hours, a lot of high touch instances of actually playing around with the code to make sure everything works, because there's going to be some patching in the beginning, I'm sure, as well, to get past some certain things. But it's definitely going to be exciting to see where this goes, and it's fun to be able to follow along with this basically from its jumping off point, because you're going to be hearing a lot about these tools coming out, and basically hearing videos like mine where we say that it is very early, but you're going to have to wait and see exactly what it's going to do in the future. We're basically in a new golden era of retro gaming with all of these different decomps, recomps, and PC ports, and as far as PlayStation 2 Recomp tool is concerned, this is basically still day zero stuff. It is not fully developed, it is open source, it will get better, and before you know it, you will be playing the first complete PS2 recompilation based on the tool. I have a feeling maybe we're talking about September, October, November, or maybe even early 2026 till that happens. We'll have to wait and see how good my predictions are. But short of that, that's the video. Hope you enjoyed it, and definitely don't go into this hospital. See you next time. Bye-bye.